we commit to a greener, more sustainable future. Uh, and as all of us see here and in everyday lives, the damage we are causing to the planet is real. And we see this manifesting in new and unique ways. Till a few weeks back, I did not know that extreme turbulence on planes can be attributed to climate change, right? And again, as we go along, there are, we keep on finding out there are, new consequences or consequences we didn't know about of how our climate is getting impacted. And the food industry has a significant environmental footprint. The food systems contribute about a third of the global greenhouse gas emissions. I think this question gets amplified in the region where you have about 90% of the food that gets imported in. When we look at food wastage, while a lot is being done and we're moving in the right direction, still a lot of food gets wasted. But saying that, we see increasingly businesses from the UAE that are coming up with unique sort of solutions to tackle the challenge. So you have people building big vertical indoor farms, local sourcing. There are businesses that have made bold commitments to net zero, and the list goes on. So this afternoon, I'm glad to have with me a panel of experts from different parts of the food ecosystem. And over the next 40 minutes, I'd like to get their insights on what can we do as an industry, and also more importantly, what are they doing in their respective businesses to build a more cleaner, sustainable food ecosystem. But I think before we start, I will maybe we'll just go around. I'll get the panelists to quickly introduce themselves to give a little more context about what do they do and what businesses do they run. So maybe, Daniel, why don't we start with you, and then we'll
My name is Daniel Solomon, and I'm one of the founders at HeroGo. HeroGo is an online platform that leverages technology to reduce the cost of food while we fight food loss and food waste. In simple terms, we rescue surplus food from farmers and importers, and we sell them directly to businesses and customers who want to reduce their costs on their grocery shopping on a weekly basis.
Hi, my name is Chang, and we run a Asian food distribution and retail company called 1000 for Gourmet.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mario. I'm from Portugal, and I am the business director of Jomara Premium Organic Dates, the FMCG brand of Batil Group. Jomara has a mission that is to make dates universal. We want everyone, everywhere, every time, having dates in their diet. And this is what we propose to do with our organic product. Thank you.
Namaste, good afternoon. This is Ashwinii Harish. I'm founder of Rootz Organics. We are an online store for organic, natural, and sustainable products. We've started this platform with a single purpose of enabling consumers to adopt a sustainable lifestyle in an affordable way.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Swapnil Pawar. I'm the founder of ASQI Technologies. We are a platform to facilitate regenerative agriculture and sustainable food by attacking the problem at its source, which is giving financial incentives to farmers to produce less toxic, more sustainable, more nutritious food through market linkages, carbon credits, and advisory on how to actually go about doing it. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Thank you all for your introduction. So my name is Anurag Bajpai. I'm a partner at KPMG. I work with clients in the food retail sector. And some of the conversation or the discussions we're going to have now are real-life topics that I constantly pick up with my clients. And these are some real-life challenges and strategies that we'll talk about. So maybe to start with, and maybe this is a question to all of you. We've had a lot of focus on sustainability over the last 24 months with UAE hosting COP. We see, front page headlines all the time on sustainability. If we try forgetting, Mother Nature keeps on reminding us of the damage we're causing to the world. From a consumer viewpoint, have we reached an inflection point? And are consumers walking the talk? And are they, in certain cases, willing to pay a premium to be environmentally more sustainable? And you all run consumer-facing businesses. What are your thoughts? So maybe, I don't know, Daniel, let's again start with you.
That's an interesting question. I think a while back, when we talk about sustainability from a food point of view and food waste, it's very important because one of the biggest wasters in the world is the region. We've seen a lot of people who were not aware of their daily habits and how that contributes to food waste. But there's been a lot of awareness from different entities, including the government, on educating people and giving them the right information that a simple action, can reduce waste on people's plates. And in our view, we're starting to see thousands of users who are either using our products because they want to make an impact. Of course, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. When we talk about sustainability, is a broad scope. But we're starting to see that those people are great ambassadors who are telling their neighbors. And that message will continue to spread, and it will continue to grow, because you're also seeing a lot of government entities such as NEMA, etc., who are expanding the message about food loss and food waste, and that will continue to scale.
Okay.
The conversation about sustainability is obviously a hot topic, hence we're here, but I think it all boils down to money, right? And no doubt it helps to purchase or support the cause, but if it's inaccessible, if it is more expensive, then what's the point? I think it's important for players in the market to understand that and to make it accessible for the end consumer to want to purchase, like what he's doing right now. Like, I think it's important to have a good platform and a foundation for that first, and then we can actually make a big push for the agenda.
What we see in the consumers worldwide is that the social consciousness is growing. We see a greater demand from consumers for greener products. And there is, in fact, some opening to pay a premium, as long as that premium is not too much. Sustainability shouldn't be looked on a mere P&L perspective, but as a responsibility of all the stakeholders. And I think we need to do the work inside our house. We need to incorporate more sustainable processes and materials, and at the same time work in our supply chain so that we get better costing and we can reduce the impact that this will have in the end consumer. We have a very interesting story. Most of the people in this table probably will know Batil. We produce dates since 1920, commercially on a larger scale since the 60s, and commercially since the 90s. And when we started our project, it was for the family to eat. So it was always focused on organic and sustainable, not on volume. You see, we go to our trees and we reduce the number of dates that each tree can produce. So we have less production, better dates, better value, and consumers recognize and are willing to pay for that. So I think it's the conscious and the responsibility of each company worldwide to contribute for a greener tomorrow.
Yes, I completely agree with Mario where he says the consumer is willing to pay extra. So I do agree that yes, we have reached a reflection point, and I believe consumers have reached a point where they are taking it on themselves to correct the impact of the human actions on the environmental, whatever we are facing right now, to correct it, and they have taken up the responsibility. So just to give you a very simple example, they prefer products which are more health-friendly and environmental friendly these days. And just to give a small example, in my own company, when we switched from a plastic bottle to a glass bottle, 25% of our consumers opted for it, despite the prices being on a higher side. And one of the recent surveys, I was reading up one of the surveys conducted on whether the consumer is willing to pay a little extra. 38% of the consumers are willing to pay for products which are eco-conscious and eco-friendly. And I would say in my own experience, we have seen a consistent growth in our consumer base. There are many more consumers joining our platform despite the prices. I would say they are not higher, they are affordable. And consumers are beginning to realize that sustainability is an investment. It is not an expense, it's an investment in their own well-being, in their own health. So yes, I think sustainability is something which is becoming more consumer, has come about in consumers, and they are willing to pay a little extra. That's my opinion.
I totally agree in the sense that consumers are willing to pay a premium. But my favorite question to most of my friends these days for last several months has been, would you pay a bit more for XYZ product, not in a generic sense, but for this product or that? And a friend recently told me that if somebody prints on their label, it's ethically sourced, sustainably produced, organic, my first reaction is, you just need some extra ink to print that, isn't it? What's the proof? So there is a serious trust deficit between consumers and producers as regards sustainable and organic food. And we need to figure out ways, technology and other ways to bridge that. I think that's pretty central to this conversation.
No, I think, and you guys raised some sort of great points. Chang spoke about extra costs, you're talking about traceability, provenance. But I think one theme that did sort of come out is that we do see consumers show a higher appetite to pay a premium. I think the challenge sometimes is, would you pay 10% more, 15% more? Would you pay of 3% or 4% or 5% more? And I think that's where the real challenge is. But I think, Daniel, you raised a point on consumer education and how there's an increased awareness. And to me, maybe that is the battle of sustainability. The drive has to come from the consumer, and the consumer needs to see value in what he's spending. It could even be a little higher. What are you doing? And again, you run a very unique sort of business concept, and a lot of that has to go to do with consumer awareness and their willingness to buy that product, be a grocery, vegetable. How do you educate your consumer?
I think education is key to really solve any challenging issues that we face, particularly around food waste. Because if you look at the food waste that does occur, what we don't see is the one that occurs at the house. And to really solve for food waste, we need to be able to address the food waste that occurs at the house level. And the only way you could start solving for food loss and food waste is you need to start speaking directly to the people who are participating in wasting food at the household level. And what do I mean by that is, we don't know a lot of times where we go to a house or in the house where we have food on the table, but we can't eat it. Then we put it in the fridge and say we're going to eat it later, but we end up throwing it into the landfill, right? Into our garbage. And the only way that could stop, where people are starting to know that, okay, if I buy my vegetables and I put it in the fridge, and if I forget and I'm in the supermarket and I get the same vegetable, I'm not supposed to put that new one into the fridge. I'm supposed to bring the old one first, try to use that before putting that the new one in. So just first in, first out, that also reduces waste. So one of the practical ways in that customer education is, what is the benefit for you? So the messaging that we try to tell the users is not, food is going to, make climate change this and all the stats. It's really making it relatable to them to say, food being wasted is an economical value to you. So it's very important that when you start practicing practical steps, supporting local farmers, supporting product that normally will be deemed not perfect by the supermarkets, and then you get them to the right users. So first, they're cautious because they've bought it at a cheaper rate. It's got into their home. They're trying to make sure that they're using all of the food, and they're practicing little steps. So those are the small ways that we start with education. And it goes beyond that. Like in our boxes, we provide recipes to say, if you're getting a product that you're not used to, sometimes it gets wasted because they don't know what to cook with them. So we support you with a recipe to say, this is what you can do with those particular food. So little cautious effort that the users put into practice helps reduce waste, and they start getting into the habits, and they start telling their friends. Of course, when they go to the restaurants, because they are being cautious at home, they would not want to waste food that is in front of them, and the message continues to grow from that perspective. Yeah.
No, I think, and the point you sort of raised on translating the wastage into value, into money terms, and making those marginal gains in terms of educating. And again, that has to start bottom up at the level of the house. Chang, you sort of run a niche, if I might call it a niche Korean business, catering to a specific segment of the community. And from what I understand, you do a lot of community events, bringing the community together. Is sustainability, sustainable practices a part of the agenda you're driving with the community?
I think, like you said, education is so important, right? Especially because we deal with Korean, Japanese, Thai products. A lot of our ingredients might be foreign to people that are not from those countries. So we try to do cooking classes, for example. We try to create content where people can learn how to use our products. So from that level, education is important. But internally, like I said, I hate to go back to this, but as you mentioned, it does come down to money, because for us, when you're dealing with 3,500, 4,000 products, you're definitely going to have wastage. You're definitely going to have overstocked items. So one example is we had 1,500 kilos of mandarin left. And exactly, right? If I knew, I would have contacted you. We didn't have enough consumption to cover it. So basically, I called up my friend that has a jam factory, and we converted 500 kilos of mandarin into 1,000 kilos of jam, bottled it up, and now we're selling that in the shop. So when you go to the shop, you'll see it. But these are kind of measures that you can take to ensure the longevity or increase the longevity of your products. But again, internally, when we have near expiration products, which we go through on a weekly basis, we look at the stock, the consumption, and if we're overstocked, sometimes we'll just give it out to customers, and that also brings in customer attention because they appreciate it, and we're not wasting food. So they also ask, like, do you want this? Are you going to eat it? Because if they're not going to eat it, there's no point giving it to them. So yeah, these are kind of the internal measures that we take to kind of, again, sustainability equals just saving money. So yeah.
No, I think makes sense. And again, maybe this is out of the box thinking of innovative use of that product when it's close to expiry. So I think and you picked up this topic of cost. Ashwinii, maybe I'll ask you this question. And I know maybe it's a misconception, but a lot of businesses associate sustainability with higher cost. Your cost of business going up. How can you make this a value creative or a value addition exercise for businesses where sustainability is positive to the top lines, to their bottom lines, to to the margins they're making? How can you turn the dial on this?
I would say this is a question very close to my heart, simply because, look, sustainability will come at a cost. Let's accept it in the beginning for a business. Having said that, I firmly believe sustainability is going to be one of the key factors in which the business will be measured in the coming future. The way the businesses are valued, viewed, and acknowledged. So sustainability is going to be the new digital, for sure. So this is the near coming truth. So there are a lot of surveys which were conducted wherein it was evident that millennials, the upcoming millennials, prefer to associate themselves with businesses which are acknowledging and adopting sustainable practices and are eco-conscious, be it in terms of working for the company or be it purchasing from the company. So this is the hard fact which is coming about. So the sooner the businesses accept sustainability as the new normal and start adopting sustainability in their practices, I believe it will automatically have a positive influence in your top lines because more and more consumers will associate themselves with you, and automatically the associated costs are going to come down. And in addition to this, with growing awareness for organic living, for sustainable products, for eco-conscious products, I firmly believe the cost of producing these products is definitely going to come down, which will mean more volumes because more consumers are going to buy it, which in turn will mean more profitability for a business. So I believe it's not a cost for a business, but an investment for a business, which is going to translate into a positive top line for the businesses in the coming future. It's just that it's very important for the businesses to accept it, and sooner the better they'll be able to position themselves in a better sustainability framework. So that talks about the top line, the profitability, and the revenue, right? But in terms of the value creation, there's a greater value creation when you start to adopt sustainable practices. I would like to break it down into two factors. The first factor being adopting sustainable practices will mean boost in the agricultural practices, right? So it will mean there is a direct impact on a greener earth, lesser carbon emission, and healthier crops. I think I would like to emphasize on healthier crops because that's the need of the hour. So that's from an economy point of view. And from an end consumer point of view, I would like to measure the value creation in terms of improved health and well-being of a consumer, right? He's directly benefited with improved health and well-being and reduced hospital bills and better quality time with family and friends. You're able to age better, more stronger, and we'll be able to build a stronger and a healthier generation, which is at risk right now. So I believe, so this I hope explains how sustainability is not a cost to the business, but indeed it's going to be a huge investment in addressing the issues that we are facing right now.
Okay, no, thanks, Ashwinii. I don't know, anybody has anything to add to this? Because I think the sense I'm getting, Ashwinii, obviously in the short term, it is maybe a cost to the business, but I think as businesses, you have to act. If not, in a few years, your consumers will force you to act.
See, another thing I would like to add here is, again, like after we had this discussion, I was reading up a lot. So there are going to be regulatory frameworks. It's coming.
Yeah.
It is happening. So there are going to be regulatory frameworks. There's going to be a lot of documentation. There's a lot of proof which is going to be demanded by the companies in terms of what are they doing to achieve sustainability. And in addition to that, there's already a greater movement happening in the US where employees are demanding sustainable practices in the company and consumers are demanding sustainable practices in the company. So this movement is happening. It may be very minimal right now. It may not be felt as of now, but I definitely see in about 20 to 30 years, this is going to be the buzzwords. If the companies are not going to be falling under the framework, so they are going to be paying a price. So this is the reality.
I was going to say, we don't even have to wait for that long. I think when we talk about sustainability for businesses and also for individuals, it does not have to be expensive. And it does not have to be premium. It only would continue to be premium if companies acting in silos and not working with each other. An example could be packaging materials. If a producer is going to charge you more because you're an individual, if you're going to come together as a lot more people, a lot more companies, the cost will go down because there's a unit of economic of scale. So I think that solving for impact and solving for sustainability just really also goes beyond, the cost. It's like rethinking outside of the box and rethinking about, food system, the broken system, and how do we fix it, and then, working, from a bottom-up point of view.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be expensive, and we're starting to see that now.
Yeah, no, and I think you sort of raised a point on partnerships. Swapnil, I'll come to you on partnership, but I think the last point I'll make on costs is, again, I see that increasingly in the region where you have some of the financial institutions are lending you based on climate-linked metrics at a lower rate than what they would do to any other business. So again, in some cases, it is reducing cost of operating. There's still maybe a way to go and a momentum has to build up. But I think the direction of travel is, I think, in the right direction. So, Swapnil, on this point of partnership.
Let me just add two points, if you
Sorry,
don't mind.
yeah.
Sustainability not necessarily is cost. Is also we can look from the perspective of the process. One of the challenges that we have in the food industry is shelf life. We know how retailers deal with shelf life. They try to become protective. So if a product is closer to its shelf life, even though it's in great condition still for consumption, most of the times that becomes waste. We have companies like Daniel to help us managing these short life items. But we are seeing an interesting move across the world, mostly in the US and the UK, and that is still valid, still good after. So we're moving away from the shelf lives, because as we all know, most of the shelf life indication, the date, means the better condition, but not necessarily the safe condition to use the products. We have conducting studies in our company to extend the shelf life of our products. Keep in mind that we are organic, we don't use any preservatives, and we think that we can grow this in 50%. So this is immediately, just by changing a process, a saving to the company in opposition to the cost. Other interesting example was that we were challenged by one of our customers, the 5th largest retail group in the world, how to become cleaner, greener. And we have 2 production sites, one in Dubai and one in Al Ghat in Saudi Arabia. And after long sessions wrapping around our heads, we just decided, okay, let's transfer the production to the farm. Let's get closer to the farms. And with that, apart from all the financial savings that we had, we still became greener. We save 140 tons of CO2 every year.
Wow.
That is sufficient for a year of 10 citizens. Not to mention that our palm trees themselves, 200,000, they produce 40,000 tons of CO2 enablers. They capture 40,000 tons of CO2. So sustainability not necessarily needs to be a cost.
Yeah, okay, no, thanks, Mario. So I think, Swapnil, coming on to you, and I'm picking up from a point that Daniel made on partnerships and how this has to be a movement for costs for the industry to come down. And I know you work with a number of businesses in the value chain, you partner with them. Can you give some examples of what you've seen from the work you've done in India? I know you work with farmers and other people in the value chain.
Sure. So in fact, it dovetails into the point about the cost as well. Because one of the things we're working on with a large FMCG company in India is about making their sourcing of, say, rice more sustainable as well as less toxic in terms of chemicals. Now, this has 2 challenges. 1, advisory, 2, verification. Because farmers have been farming rice a certain way for last 50, 60 years. I'm not talking about 500 years because that was actually quite okay. It's just the last 50 years where it has gone off the rails a little bit, where you're obsessing about production yield, not about quality. So that cycle has made it more toxic and less sustainable. Now, there are very simple mechanisms by which you can achieve a cost reduction and a greenhouse gas emission reduction and less toxic food. And I'll just talk about one instance of that. Both India and China, in terms of agriculture, are sort of known for overuse of nitrous fertilizers. Nitrous fertilizers lead to emission of nitrous oxide into air, which, as some of you might know, is about 280 times more potent than CO2 in its greenhouse gas effect. So if you reduce 1 ton of N2O, nitrous oxide, you are actually reducing 280 tons of CO2. All you have to do is tell farmers to use less urea and nitrous fertilizers, but they don't know how much to use. So you need to give advisory. We, for that specific client, implemented a program where we actually told from the day of sowing to the day of harvest how much of which macronutrients to use, specifically focusing on reducing nitrous fertilizer use. The farmer was actually happy because he or she paid less. So it's not costly. They actually saved money. there was lesser toxins in the food because you have lesser chemical usage in the soil, and it was more nutritious because it was more regenerative in terms of his farming practice. So we need to solve for this by essentially conveying what to do to the farmers, but then also verifying that it is indeed happened. I think that's the part which a lot of people talking about traceability miss. They misunderstand traceability to be just pointing out that this is where it was grown, and this is the path it followed. That's not enough. You have to also tell that this is how it was grown. And then that's where you have to do interventions, as we call it, like this nitrous fertilizer intervention.
Okay, no, interesting. And again, maybe it sort of goes back to the point we made with consumers about consumer education. At the same time, even up the value chain, there is, with the farmers, you have to work with them and work a solution that's possibly optimal for all parties concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, Chang, maybe I'll come to you, and maybe you, in a way, represent some of the challenges, real-life challenges with decarbonization. So again, I'm going back to you being a Korean sort of distributor, retail chain, where I'm sure most of your products come from the Far East. And maybe that's your USP. That's why people come to you, because it reminds them of home. Now, so how do you sort of balance that challenge with the other parts of your business, with the efficiency you can get from what the other things you're doing in a business? How do you balance this?
Yeah, look, we live in a city where I would say like 90+% of the food that we eat is imported, right? I mean, we do have a lot of amazing farms like Emirates Biofarm, which Yaz is doing, but you know, as a company that is import-centric, I do feel guilty when I look at all the plastic packaging that Japanese people put. You know, it's like plastic and plastic and plastic. It looks cute and nice, but again, I feel guilty. But our way of giving back is, again, like kind of working with local, you know, farmers, for example. So we have a nice butchery inside our shop, and the chicken that we use is this free-range Omani chicken, which is really delicious, and again, like not expensive. It's at a good price. Fruits and vegetables as well. Now we are seeing a lot more local farmers. So there's this Korean farmer in Abu Dhabi that's farming Korean food, like vegetables right now. So we're not only selling it in our shop, but also because we sell to around 500 restaurants, we're helping him push his products to restaurants. And so we're doing our best, let's say that, in terms of plastic bags. You know, we do have plastic bags, again, like sushi takeaway containers, it's kind of plastic. So, you know, we're always looking at alternatives, but if this alternative is, let's say, like 3x the cost of what I'm already paying, then, you know, do I pass that on to the consumer who won't be happy, or do I take the bite? And, you know, there's no doubt because we're a niche, we have a bit of a margin to play around with and to allocate to the cause of sustainability. But, you know, again, it's something that's always in the back of my mind. It's something that I'm really trying to push for, and it's just a continuously evolving learning process for us.
Yeah, and I think, I'm sure, if I'm in your shoe, this is the day-to-day living challenge of balancing what you do for a business with the, you know, the larger responsibility of being sustainable.
Exactly. Like they have these plastic bags, for example, that are made with, tapioca or something.
Yeah.
It's actually a plastic bag made with tapioca that's got a shelf life.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm looking into, again, like alternatives like this, like, you know, more cardboard or paper containers, and also like things like optimizing delivery routes, right? Because we do like 100 deliveries a day just online, plus all the restaurants. And so optimizing delivery routes, you know, we're not just saving emissions, but also saving money with the petrol, right? Because we have like 25 delivery vans, and, you know, oil prices are higher now. Maximizing the amount of products that we bring in per container. Again, sustainability-wise, it helps, but also we're saving money. So, yeah, it's efficiency is key for us, and sustainability is definitely one of the foundations.
Yeah, no, I like the word efficiency being the key for your business. Yeah. So, Mario, maybe coming back to you, right? So, I would like to ask you how in your business, how do you measure the impact of your sustainability sort of initiatives? What metrics are you tracking?
Well, this event did a push. We are sustainable by culture, so we have been focusing on becoming greener every time. We are looking into some metrics that are mostly demands from our stakeholders, but some of them are natural from our processes. So we control the water we consume, each plant, each section, each farm. And by the way, let me tell you that citrus and grapes, they consume a lot more water than dates. We look into the quantity of plastic packaging that we bring. Just an example, in our restaurants, we serve more than 500,000 meals through our delivery scheme. We just stopped using any plastic cutlery, and we are using sustainable date residue-based cutlery. We shift all our plastic packaging to compostable packaging. We are controlling the CO2, measuring how much we are sequestering from the atmosphere and how we can reduce our production of CO2 mostly with logistics. So these are the key elements. Let me just add something about other point, that is, we've been talking about the cost of the products, the prices, and if the consumer is willing. I think nothing is cheap or expensive. It's all about the perceived value that we deliver to the consumer. And many times we just overcharge or undercharge. If you have the care of delivering the right value, the right proposition to the consumer, they will be a lot more willing to accept that. We are an example of that. Our price is by far the highest compared to any of our competitors, but the consumer sees it, we deliver it. So the value is there, and the sustainability, even if it impacts in the cost, if it's properly communicated into the consumer, and for that we need all the stakeholders to be involved, and retailers, our partners, because they also have targets for sustainability, they are supporting us. If that message is there, if we can support, everyone wants to be greener, right? No one wants to be bad to the environment. So if we support them, the choice will be a lot easier and not necessarily a negative, but a big plus.
So I would like to quickly add on to that, saying that, like Mario rightly highlighted, yes, once the consumer sees the value, so it becomes a part of their daily thing. So the quality of what we deliver, adopting the sustainable practices, once the consumer experiences that, he's very much willing to adopt it. So this is perhaps the whole concept of the food being expensive, I believe, is just a perspective, right? Just compare a very simple food with a bag which you're purchasing. For a bag, you're willing to pay 250 dirhams, right? The bag which you're just going to go carry around. And when you're looking at food, I mean, are you going to be really debating about if it's 10 dirhams, 15 dirhams, or 20 dirhams, or 50? It's just a perspective. And there's a need for change in the perspective of a consumer, which needs to be educated to the consumer, and I guess that's what we are doing, to change the perspective of the consumer that adopting sustainability or investing or spending on sustainability is an investment within you, your health, your first home. When you're ready to pay for that bag, which may cost you 250 dirhams, don't you think it's worth spending on this as well? Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be spending on the bag. That's not the point. The point is, this needs much bigger attention of yours, because this is what makes you. So yeah, it's all about educating the consumer, and perspectives is what defines sustainability.
No, and I think, sorry, Swapnil, go ahead.
One small point I want to add is that 80-20 that one needs to get right in this context is that some climate warriors will go to the extent of saying, I won't even touch a plastic straw. But if you eat beef regularly, then it's not going to basically matter. You can have 10,000 straws, and that will probably be just equal to 1 kg of beef, maybe. So we need to understand, and then things which look similar aren't exactly similar in terms of the climate impact. So wheat and rice are both grains, but rice is at least like 10x more in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Beef and fish, both are meat, or not just a meat, let's just say protein sources.
Yeah.
Beef is at least 10x more in greenhouse gas emissions than fish. Cheese seems like a vegetarian thing to eat, but cheese is more than fish. We should know this. And if you don't know this, then we'll make all these postural changes from time to time, saying, oh, I'm becoming greener. But the core habits remain what they were, so that doesn't change much.
No, thank you. No, I think, and really thank you for your perspectives. I've just realized we've run out of time. I wanted to pick up a question on technology and how could technology answer the challenges of sustainability, but maybe for next time. I do appreciate your inputs and your insights and for this engaging conversation. I don't know, maybe we might, if there's anybody from the audience has a question, we can take 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Okay, I think you were very clear in your messaging, no questions from the audience. But thank you,
So
thank you all.
I would like to just quickly touch upon the food system, which we had kind of discussed about. So when we were just having initial round of discussions, there's one point which came about is about how is the current food system impacting the environment as well as the human health. So I think the current food system treats food as a commodity. And there's been a lot of focus on increasing the yield of the food, adopting a lot of unsustainable practices, which is having an adverse effect on both the planet and the human health, right? So just to give a broad example, the increase in the lifestyle ailments in the last few years, be it diabetes, be it cancer, be it autism, be it allergies, eczema, I mean, we've seen a steady increase. So one of the surveys conducted indicated autism. There's an increase of 40% between 2012 to 2022 alone. And this is among the children where parents had no history of autism. So where are we going wrong, really? Like, what is happening, right? And in terms of cancer, which used to be a very one-off word, now there are children who are being treated for cancer. So that's alarming. And allergies and eczemas are becoming a very common household terms. Unfortunately, I'm sure all the women here would agree, 1 out of 10 homes, this has become a very common factor. Not only this, so these are all the physical ailments, right? In terms of the mental health and the brain development, there's a huge impact what the food system is having in terms of the nutrition is one of the main bases of cognitive development of children. However, if you just look around, there are few things which are rampant in the food system. One is the refined flours and one is the sugar, which are highly processed and highly plagued with GMO. So I believe this is impacting our coming generation, and it's a very important thing for us, all of us, to take a wake-up call that sustainability is the new thing to be adopted, and we need to pay attention to what's going in our food system and make very, very conscious choices. So yeah, I mean, I hope this is what we hope the consumers learn more and more and imbibe in our households. It is the need of the hour.
Yeah, no, thank you, Ashwinii. And thank you all once again.